Hi, so this presentation is about how to make the distribution table for your project. When I say distribution table, I'm talking about a table like this over here in the Excel spreadsheet. There's an example here that we made earlier in the semester for the diameters of the oak trees. And you're going to make one like that, but for your own project data. So you should be coming to this assignment after you've already done Module 6, Topic 2, where you collected a list of data. So it won't be these oak trees. It will be whatever your project is about this semester. Last couple of times it's been hepatitis mortality rates. And so in those examples, each individual was a county and the variable was the mortality rate. And so you should have that data already listed coming into this. And the steps are listed out here in this homework assignment. I'm going to kind of go through and make a few comments about each one of those steps and point to things in Excel so you can do it a little bit more easily. So the first step here is to make a copy of your previous spreadsheet. That means the spreadsheet you handed in for Topic 2 with your data. And so you make a copy of that and rename it. The last one was, it was your name and then sample.xlsx. This one, it's your name and then disk table, because this one's going to have the distribution table. And you're making a copy of that, so you're not using the big collection of data for the class. You're not going to hand in copies of the data for the workbook, because that's a very big file. You're just going to hand in the little Excel file with your own data and distribution table. So that's step one. You make the copy, you rename it. Okay, step number 2 is just a reminder. I should have provided you with some feedback from when you handed in your data, usually to do with inconsistency about the number of digits displayed or missing units of measurement, or maybe some things about the formatting. Anyway, in the previous assignment, Topic 2, there were a list of features that I look at, to do with the names of things and labeling and formatting and so forth. So, so if any of those were not matching the instructions, you would have gotten some feedback. And your first step would be to go ahead and fix that up. So when you hand it in this time, you won't get the same comments again. We'll move on to the next thing. Now the third step, you have to decide how many classes you're going to put your data in. If you look over here at the one with the oak trees, there were 6 classes: Class A, Class B, so forth down to Class F. And the number of classes is determined by Sturgis's rule. So here in step 3, it's got a little reference back to where we learned Sturgis's rule, and then the formula is repeated here. And you can use that formula, remember to round up, to figure out how many classes. So the N here is the sample size. Like for the oak trees, that would be there's 27 trees. For your project, it's however many counties or whatever the individuals are this semester. How many individuals are in your sample? So that's the N, and you do the log of it times 3.31 and then add 1. Same way we did back in section 2.4.3 of the workbook. Okay, you find the range. You divide the range by the number of classes. To get an estimate for the class width, you round it up to make a whole number of little tick marks on the graph paper. So even though you're not going to hand this in using graph paper, we're going to make the graph in Excel eventually, you still want the numbers for the class boundaries to be nice numbers, easy to read, easy to understand. And so using a whole number of the little tick marks, which are powers of 10, makes a nice class boundaries that are easy to interpret. So you would go ahead and, like we did when we made number line plots and histograms in previous sections, there are instructions there for how you choose the scale to make it fit on a piece of paper. And there are choices for counting by ones or tens or hundreds or whatever for what the scale can be. So you go through that same procedure to decide what will be the scale of the graph for your data. It's based on the range and how big is the piece of paper. Use an 8.5 by 11 piece of graph paper, the standard paper from the back of the workbook. Okay. So you get the extended range, and then you just start from your minimum, add the class width repeatedly. You may not use all of these classes. I left blanks for up to 8 classes, but you may use fewer than that. Whatever Sturgis's rule told you to use, maybe 6 or 7, something like this. You use as many of these classes as you need, and then the end of the last one should be the top of your extended range. From the lowest to the highest class boundary, that distance should just cover your data. You don't start counting at 0, start counting it right below the bottom of your own data, so that the 6 or 7 classes together will just cover the data. Okay. So after you figured out the boundaries, then you come to fill in the actual table. And the instruction is to make a table like this for your data in Excel. And probably the easiest way to do this would be to grab the one from the oak tree diameters, copy and paste it into your own spreadsheet, and then just edit the title and the units of measurement and the numbers to match your data. And you'll have to count the frequency, how many individuals belong to each class. You'll have to count those either by hand or using the data analysis tool. And that was described. There's a previous video on that and a previous homework assignment where we did it. You're just doing it again, but with your own data. When you're done, you upload it in the usual way and keep a copy to work on for your next step in the project. When I come to grade it for the project, these will be the criteria that I use here on the next page. I think the homework assignment just gets the usual, 0 through 3 rating. Was it on time and was there progress? But by the time you put it into the final paper and I get ready to grade it, here's what I'm going to look at. So you want to go ahead and go through this list, and before you hand it in as homework now, you want to try to get these features to be correct. And you may come to one of these and like about the footnote. Oh, well, how exactly do I do the footnote? And you have to go back to the earlier homeworks where we first introduced footnotes for the number line plots and read about the details of how to do the footnotes there. So any one of these, if it's not completely described in this list, it will have been described earlier in the workbook when it first appeared. And that's all. So it doesn't have to take a very long time, especially if you copy and paste. If you're not sure about the formulas, you say, how do I get the class mark? So you can just click here and the formula is right there. The formula, if you copy and paste, the formula will come with the table. So with most of these, you can just look. With some of them, like the frequencies of the trees, you had to just count. So that says frequencies of the trees. That was for the oak tree diameter. For yours, I guess it would be counties. All right. So that's all I have to say for the video on this. And the main thing is to just go through the written instructions real carefully and ask questions in the Zoom. Good luck. That's all for this presentation.